clear the decks for flying. Aerials down well out of everyone's way, and the port watch flight deck crew leave the ready room to muster on deck. 2 flight deck officers, FDOs, a captain of the flight deck, 2 POs, 6 leading airmen, and 28 naval airmen. Straight into the DIs, the daily inspections, the pre-flying deck checks. Emergency barrier arm raising. Jumbo, the big lift crane, can pick up a 20-ton aircraft like a baby. The fire suit men check that the fire lockers in the catwalk have the right amount of foam drums, that the water pressures are okay. A right old round trot when it's a 950-foot long deck. There are 27 fire points. Crack each hydrant to check the water flow. Top up tractor batteries, oil levels, fuel, hydraulic fluid, and critical for pilot safety, the deck landing projector sight, DLPS. Different height or glide path settings for each aircraft type, related to the pilot's height in the cockpit on the approach. The LSO, the landing safety officer, brings the sight right down and checks the side-to-side sighting to make sure the pilots will have an accurate centerline approach to the angled deck. Then out front to check that the lights are working from the pilot's point of view, high or low. Communications checks.
ACR loop check over.
Flight deck to ACR, the aircraft control room. Flight deck to FICO, where the bosses are. When the flying starts, it'll be instant decisions. No time then for smoke signals. Last check, a maxi FOD plod. A line of handlers and squadron personnel walking forward to aft, picking up bits of wire, paint, wood, combs, general gash that aircraft engines can't digest. FOD? Foreign object damage. Throw it from the round down aft to the fishers astern, where it's harmless. Checks must be reported complete to ACR by first launch minus 30 minutes. ACR inform FLICO. The maintainers release a Buccaneer for ranging, up to flight deck level on the forward lift where the flight deck crew await it with a tractor and towing arm. They'll push it to its spot, the position pre-arranged for it by ACR, all carefully worked out depending on the launch composition. For instance, certain weapons could be set off by ship's radar, the RADHAZ problem. You certainly don't want an aircraft so armed pointing straight at the island. Last-minute rectification. More aircraft being spotted. This 809 Squadron Buccaneer into Fly 2, the parking position beside the island.
3 Phantoms, black lead at 2 and 3 on Channel 1 for Lepus on Sirius, followed by CCAs. Mode 3 codes as shown on the board, with an opening vector as required when airborne. The Gallic controller 041, again on Channel 1. Mode 3 code 1370 for Lepus control.
While the aircrew briefings go on inside the island, outside, more busy maneuvering. 809 line office, greenies, armourers, 892 Phantoms, airframe, radios, ejector seat serviceable, snag on a radar, serviceable, unserviceable, it all goes into the aircraft 700 book.
Right, 20 degree MDSL, Mike, for us. 1,000 pounding, entry conditions and release conditions as always. 4,500 feet, 370 knots for the entry, releasing 2,150 feet and speed 450.
More checks, more signatures. ACR with a spotting is organised. Buccaneer hydraulics problem, won't be flying. So change the parking on deck again and tell FLICO. Oil change complete. Micro switch unserviceable. Signature, serviceable, unserviceable, serviceable.
So, as you're approaching 30 miles, I should be 20, 25 miles ahead of you, coming up to the target.
Bombing up. Signatures, more signatures. The last one as the pilot signs the 700. It's all in his hands now. The search and rescue helo, SAR. The SAR will be on station with its winchman and diver in case of any launch mishap for the aircrew. Engage rotors. The crews walk aft to where the aircraft are ranged and ready. The Buccaneers on the starboard side. The Phantoms port side in parking area Fly 4. After the external checks, a good look over the bang seat before jumping in. Launch the SAR.
Stand by to start. The Buccaneers, Phantoms and Gallants. Stand clear of propellers.
straps tight, anti-G working, helmets on, radio leads connected. In ACR, finger on the pulse. Watch for any unserviceabilities that might alter the launch order. After start checks, flaps, tail slab, ailerons, oil pressures, jet pipe temperatures, hundreds of them. Permission to taxi. Gannet, first launched on the waste catapult. First, because it needs less steam pressure for launching, a matter of economy. First Buccaneer taxis out behind for the bow catapult. The range director then marshals a Phantom out to go after the Gannet on the waste cat. Thousands of pounds of fuel burning away behind, so it's got to be a slick operation. Second engine winds up. Chock men hang on for dear life during power checks. Fire suit men stand by. The crew's clear. FDO winding up to take off power. Full power, green from Flyco. Go. Back into the seat and away. The Buck moves up to the bowcat, while behind, the base loading director marshals the next Phantom on. Bowcat, the JBD's jet blast deflectors come up and lock behind the Buccaneer. They're great big water-cooled plates held up by powerful hydraulic jacks. Above, the SAR gives the Buck a last-second look-over. The whole back is secured behind. An AEO checks the tail incidents, and the Badger runs out. Up front, it's down parking chocks. The bridle's hooked up to the aircraft. Nose wheel in the air. Tension. All good. Thumbs up. Clear from underneath. Straighten the nose wheel. Thumbs up to the FDO. The lamp box lights. Flyco lights. Green. Go. And another one ready behind it. Aft the waste cat. The Phantom's on. Hold back secured. Hook up the bridle. Tension. Nylon bridle arrestor stops tight. Cruise clear, afterburners, everything straining, pilot happy, go! Bridle comes back for the next launch. Already another Phantom lining up. Bowcat, Buccaneer. Wastecat, Phantom. Blast back. Bowcat, Buccaneer, quarter ton of steam a time. Last one, first launch. Fire suit man relax a while. Another serviceable Phantom emerges from the hangar depths. ACR have planned its spot position.
Yeah, that's going out first, yeah.
And the tractor crew meet it at flight deck level for ranging. While another team maneuver a Sea King to fly 3, starboard side behind the radar dome. Sea King autopilot up the spout, so onto the aft lift. Operator checks all clear, blows his whistle twice as a warning, selects the level, the aft hangar, and is down to see the maintainers. Electrics, oxygen, instruments, tire pressures, all to be signed for and checked complete by the pilots. Spotted, chocks in, lashing secure. Signatures all there. Grab your helmet and away again. Range light to amber. Clear to taxi and load the cats. The range director marshals the first aircraft out, a Phantom. He hands over to the aft Y director, who in turn hands on to the base loading director on the waste cat. Back comes the shuttle for loading. ACR keep their board right up to date. The eternal chess game. Up go the JBDs, safe for the range crews behind them during launch, unless the hydraulic jacks fail. Then, well, reheat. It'd be over the back end, wouldn't it? Flyco green. 20 tons, 0 to 120 knots, 3 seconds. Aircraft blast back, plus a 20-knot headwind, plus 25-knot ship speed. Good for a healthy complexion. Back goes the bridle to be laced round the shuttle and connected to the aircraft for the next wastecat launch. First, though, Bowcat, Buccaneer. Number 1 badges thumbs up to the FDO. Wastecat, Phantom. Bowcat, Buccaneer. Wastecat, duck down. Wind blast. You get used to it, but you must never get complacent. The flight deck of a carrier is one of the most dangerous places in the world. Before the aircraft come back again, let's look at the layout. The angled flight deck was originally a British idea. Aft is the round down and the red threshold the beginning of the angle. There's Fly 4 Park portside aft and the aft lift edged in white. The angle centre line, a prominent interrupted day-glow red, and the 4 arrestor wires stretched across the deck. Going on, helo spot 5, helo spot 4. The thick white line either side of the angle is called the baseline. There, the jet blast deflectors, JBDs, flatten flush with the deck after the wastecat. And Fly 2 Park beside the island. Helo spot 3 and the forward lift. Note along the edge of the angle now, thinner white lines outside the baseline called wingtip safety lines. During recoveries, you stay outside them in fear of your life. Then the bow catapult steaming away with its JBDs behind. Spots 2 and 1, the white parking chocks edging Fly 1, the forward parking area the aircraft will go to after recovery. And finally, the cowcatcher forward on which the bridle is arrested after each bow launch.
Recovery stations, recovery stations.
Fire suitmen, tractors, handlers, everyone behind the wingtip safety lines.
Final 2.5 miles.
The LSO talks him down a 4-degree glide path.
Drifting slightly left. Roger.
Roger? On the glide path, in the groove. The 4 wires correctly set, bowstrings raised, target wire 3. The hookmen run out, brakes off, the tension pulls the aircraft back, the front man signals forward to the wires director, taxi. The aft man indicates wires reset. The wire is reset, bowspring raised 3 inches. Phantom, hook, wheels and flaps down. Second wire. Grandstand view at the DLPS. Back comes the wire scratching over the deck. The FDEO, Flight Deck Engineering Officer, checks it for physical damage. Okay. Each wire should be good for 30 recoveries anyway.
Little power. Roger, hold ahead.
Buccaneer. Hookmen out. Go astern. Wire release. Up hook, up flaps, wings fold. Wires reset and taxi forward to park in Fly 1. High and fast. Wire forward. 2 feet too high at touchdown. Phantom. Go astern. Wire release. Up hook. Up flaps. Wings fold. Wires reset. And under the wires director's control, into Fly 1.
The flight deck waistboard in the ACR window.
Brakes. In with the chocks. Lashings. Shut down the engines, switches off, canopies open. Ejector seat safety pins in, and fresh sea air again, plus 40 knots of it. Deep breath before the next recovery.
Recovery station, stand by to recover. 3 Phantoms, 4 Buccaneers, and again it.
The second wave join and turn downwind. FDO gives FICO the green. Emulsion coolant sprays backwards from the wires sheath.
Roger 26. Getting slightly low.
Low and fast. Wave off. Overshoot. Watch him carefully this time. Still a bit high. Wire 3. Hook men rush out. Go astern. Wires release. Wires director gives the up flaps. Wings fold. Wires reset. Down safely, but only just a few seconds ahead of the unexpected. The emergency crash crew leap out after a footloose oil drum and manhandle it into the catwalk. That was genuinely nasty. And last, the Gannet, which has more fuel to loiter with than the heavies. A nice, gentlemanly 90-knot approach.
Recovery complete, sir.
And when all's safe, back comes the SAR, and the captain turns the ship off the flying course and out of wind. 809 Squadron lose a Buccaneer, which goes down for an engine change. Respotting starts immediately. Oil, liquid oxygen, fuel to be replenished, systems to be checked again and signed for. Weapons. 1,000-pound practice bombs, blue. Lepus smoke flares, white. Cluster of live bombs, green and yellow. Build up to the next launch. The bridle is threaded round the shuttle. Flag down and another shudder through the ship. Phantom on. Go. Check ears and beard. Bridle throwaway after 50 launches into the sea. Phantom and bridle arrest on the cowcatcher. Buccaneer, bow catch. Back comes the shuttle again. Next launch, rotary. 2 Sea Kings on an anti-submarine exercise. And both are airborne. What do the flyboys get up to after launch? With the controllers and ADR, the airborne direction room, fleet defense. High-level combat. Sidewinder missiles. Pairs low-level interception.
New target, 340, 100.
Roger.
Can I use that bridge? There's an IP. Can run into it.
Low-level recce over Sicily. Tanking to extend the range of a sortie. Coast out. Anti-shipping strike. Get right down below radar. And last target, Mother herself.
Tell ACR to range 2 Phantoms at alert 5.
Then throttles back, joining upwind. change of watch. And it's an emergency. Stand by, watch on deck.
Rig the Mark 10 barrier. Rig the Mark 10 barrier.
A buccaneer returning from a long-range diversion has got its hook stuck up for real. So drop everything and rush to open the barrier pack stowages, port and starboard. The tractor pulls out the barrier and drags it across the deck to between the barrier arms. Then the forklifts position the energy-absorbing packs. Then it secures them to the spigots on deck. The FDO indicates raise the barrier arms. Up she comes for height adjustment. Then get out of the way. But fickle aircraft, hook down now. Emergency over, unrig the barrier. Should be okay, but... Bolter, missed the wires, round again, adrenaline pumping. Try again.
Shifting slightly left. Dropping slightly low now. Little power. Roger, and hold that action.
Okay, got it.
For exercise, for exercise, for exercise. Crash on deck. Crash on deck. Buccaneer aircraft, undercarriage collapse.
He mucked us about with the barrier, his turn to suffer now. Chocks, cut engines, then forklift out with the fire suit men, fire hoses, jettison canopy if necessary in a real emergency, make the seats safe and get the aircrew out as soon as possible. Then away with them down the forward lift to the sick bay. In fact, today, only to normal debriefing.
Okay, let's go ahead and debrief the bombing then. 20 MDSL, Sirius Splash, leader will take your bombs first. Okay, if you can give me the bombs that we got.
45 at 12.
Okay, first bomb, 45 feet, 12 o'clock. Second bomb?
90.
The med isn't always nice. A sudden squally cloudburst. But Atlantic gales, rain dripping from your nose, oil and water slippery decks, it takes a lot to stop the flying. Poor old deck.
How did that inset go? Oh, that's fine, sir. Adrian gave me a very early pickup. Took me wide astern. We motored in gently around the back into about 500 yards.
Change of watch. Duskers and rollers with hooks up. They'll go on thundering through the night. And all the time, slick teamwork on a dangerous, dark, noisy deck.
Slightly low. Little power. Little power. Roger, and hold that attitude.
it go today, sir?
Fine. Had a problem with Navarre's alignment on startup.
Did you try to realign it?
Yeah, it took a couple of goes, but it was okay after that.
Fine. And what about you, sir?
Mine was okay, actually. Thought the combat was a bit better today.
It went a lot better, Paul.
Good.
Right, we're off again in a couple of hours, and I've got a few things to do, so can we make it quick?
Okay, sir, I'll see you down there in a sec.
Great. I'll grab your coffee, and I'll see you in the crew room.
Okay,
Cheers.
thanks.
It's funny, these days there's more to do than ever, and less of us to do it. Still, it keeps you on your toes. Of course, the busier you are, the more careful you've got to be. Otherwise, mistakes start creeping in. Morning, Chef. 2 coffees, please. So, whether you're fixed wing or rotary, and I've been both, it's a potentially dangerous business we're all involved in, so we've got to be flight safety conscious. Obviously, the risks are greater when people have got a lot to do, but even so, some of the stupidest problems arrive when there's no pressure at all, out of sheer carelessness. With familiarity, people become complacent. They don't concentrate properly and are easily distracted.
Hey, Riggs. Oh, hiya.
Distraction can be very dangerous, usually for someone else. Still, when you've done a job many times before, especially a simple job, it's not always easy to concentrate the way you should. One day, a Sea King was in the hangar to have one of its tail rotor blades changed. A simple enough task. When the job was done, the supervisor checked it out and okayed it. Later, the aircraft was put back on the line, ready to fly. On the BFI, the plane captain inspected the airframe and thought that everything looked fine. When the pilot came to collect the aircraft, he too considered it to be completely airworthy. He started up and taxied to the other side of the airfield for takeoff. But as the Sea King got airborne, the pilot began to experience severe handling problems. He landed again as quickly as he could. He shut down, and he and his crewmen inspected the airframe once more, this time a good deal more carefully.
Look at that!
They saw, to their astonishment, that the new tail rotor blade had been fitted back to front. Several people had looked at it before. No one had noticed it. They had all seen what they expected to see, and not what was actually there. It's easily done if you don't take care. Harder to forgive are cases of poor professional standards or shoddy workmanship. Like the bright boys who improvise with tools rather than fetch the right one. Or the bloke who couldn't find the bolt he needed to reconnect a Sea King flight control rod. He used a longer one instead. No problem. He made up the difference with a handful of washers. 10 of them altogether. Granted, it's easy to confuse components when they have similar part numbers. But with aircraft, near enough is never good enough. Perhaps the most dangerous products of shoddy and careless work are foreign objects, because foreign objects cause foreign object damage, FOD. Bits and pieces get gobbled up by modern engines and can cause severe indigestion. All aircraft need a clean environment, so sweep up as you go. And be careful to put all litter and debris in the bins, out of harm's way. At sea, ditch your gash only at permitted times, and never when the ship is at flying stations. Gash can become FOD too, and it attracts birds. FOD plods, to pick up gash, are a good idea both at sea and ashore. They help to keep FOD under control. It is an enormous problem, and it's everyone's responsibility.
Right, sir, so to summarise today's main learning points. Firstly, I've got to start my reversals a lot earlier, and secondly, I have to maintain a much higher energy level as well.
Good, and also take greater advantage of my mistakes.
Right.
Other than that, it was very good, Paul. Well done.
Okay.
I'll see you back here in 45 minutes.
Thanks.
Apart from carelessness, one thing all those examples have in common is that the culprits never seem to believe that anything serious can happen as a result of their actions. After all, accidents happen to other people, don't they? Obviously, any carelessness seriously weakens the flight safety net, but most accidents are caused by outside pressures. Morning, Scribes. Anything for me?
Yes, there's something up there for you, sir.
Thank you. Of course, the most common form of pressure is quite simply workload. We've all experienced it. Too much to do, not enough people, not enough time, so life does get very tense. There was a case recently in a Type 21 frigate. The ship was working up with other vessels off Portland, and the flight was working under some pressure.
Well, I did say it'd take longer than 2 hours. Okay, we'll see what we can do, but I can't promise.
The SMR had his work cut out keeping the Lynx flying, and its maintenance up to date.
Pete Burns' supposed to have sorted that out. Get him to fix it, will you?
He wasn't helped by the fact that one of the flight, a newcomer called Burns, didn't seem to be pulling his weight.
Have you finished that yet? The aircraft's coming back in 20 minutes.
Okay, Chief.
What the SMR didn't know was that Burns had serious personal problems on his mind. He had just learned from his father that his mother was critically ill and was soon to go into hospital for a major operation. He was worried sick. One day, during a case-ex, the Lynx recovered to the ship to shut down for an hour, while the helo from one of the other vessels took over the air task. The SMR decided to take advantage of the break to try and keep the routine maintenance going.
Okay, we've got the aircraft for a couple of hours, so let's get some jobs done. Jan, you go off and do your toolboxes. Pete, you got the residual oil from the tail rotor drive shafts. And Stretch, you go and do the monster weapon carriers. Okay?
But,
let's get it done.
as often happens, plans were about to change unexpectedly.
The flight commander is requested to come to the bridge.
Well, Charlie, bad news. How adaptable.
The consort's helo had gone unserviceable, and the captain had been asked to help out. So how long would it take to get the helo airborne again? The flight commander was keen to show willing.
We've just started work on the aircraft, sir, but I think we can probably get airborne in about 15 minutes. We might be able to bring that down to 10.
Come on, Pete, get a bloody move on. We're flying in 10 minutes.
Yes, Chief.
Pete, you got the trike?
That mishap was caused by a combination of pressures, working together and against flight safety. And of course, there are many other pressures, all of which make it difficult to concentrate, difficult to work safely and efficiently. Be aware of them.
First, there's noise.
Then, there's rough weather. Extremes of temperature. and fatigue.
OK, lads. Aircraft coming in on 5 and 9 spots. Out you go.
We all have to work long and demanding hours sometimes, and it can be difficult to maintain a balance between operational needs and safety. Just remember that when you are tired, your reactions are slower and your judgment is affected. This is particularly important for aircrew in the ASW and AEW worlds. Pilots can spend many long hours at the controls, and it's vital for those who are planning flying programs to be on the lookout for signs of fatigue. It's equally vital to recognize the symptoms of tiredness in yourself.
Chris!
You don't gain extra points for ditching.
The lesson is, know your limits and those of your men and don't exceed them. Likewise, if you're feeling unwell, don't work on out of some sense of duty. That sort of loyalty is dangerous. Above all, if you have a problem, tell somebody. Good communication is at the heart of good flight safety.
Good morning, gentlemen. The situation...
Everyone concerned in any operation must have all the relevant information, so briefings must be accurate and detailed.
A strong to gale force unstable northeasterly airstream to the area.
In-flight communication must be precise and economical, whether air-to-air or ground-to-air.
Slightly left to centre line at 12 miles, heading 280.
All reports and records relating to maintenance and repair must be kept up to date. And all signs and labels on equipment and materials must be clear, because poor communication causes accidents. There was another Sea King incident not so long ago. A maintenance crew securing at the end of the day shift noticed that something had not been fitted.
Oh, there's no pitot cover up there. Won't bother about it. Right.
Later, one of the night shift was checking oil levels. He too noticed there was no pitot cover. He decided to replace it. He went to the line hut to fetch another one. He didn't tell anyone what he'd done, because pitot covers are non-accountable stores. Sadly, during the night, the pitot cover was blown away in a storm. Next morning, the aircraft was due to fly, and one of the original maintainers was plane captain. He once more noticed that the pitot cover was missing, just as it had been when he left the aircraft on the previous evening.
Hydraulics guarded, fuel on 1, please. Yep. Start 1. Clear start 1. Ignition on, light on, winding up, oil pressure coming up. 27 below 150, going forward.
Not much doubt about that incident, or its cause. But not all mistakes are so obvious. Sometimes, only one person is aware that an error has been made. If that person is you, and you don't want to talk about the problem openly, use the AnyMouse system to report your error. It could save someone else embarrassment, or worse. So, full and clear communication is essential for flight safety, and it has wide repercussions. Persistent problems with a particular type of aircraft may be due to a design fault, which can only be correctly diagnosed if reported properly. So don't keep your problems to yourself. Tell someone or use the flight safety log.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Paul?
Briefing in a few minutes.
I'll be right there.
Okay.
Another way to improve flight safety will be to make sure that everyone follows the laid down procedures. Amazingly, deliberate breaches of the rules are not uncommon, and even committed by experienced people who should know better. During an exercise at sea recently, an experienced Sea King pilot overtalked his aircraft on takeoff. He flew on, nevertheless, to complete his mission. When questioned about his action later, he said he'd done the same thing many times during the Falklands conflict. No accident happened then, so why the fuss now? Another optimist was a PO maintainer.
Right. Now, wire lock it, panel on, in, sign up. You've got 20 minutes. That's where they want it.
He left the rating to complete the job unsupervised. The PO himself went back to the line hut to finish the paperwork.
properly?
Yeah, it's fine.
Your wire locked in all right?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
That panel's fitted okay?
Yep.
Okay then.
Thus reassured, the PO didn't feel he needed to check himself, so he signed up too.
Right, that one's ready to go.
Unfortunately, the rating hadn't secured the panel correctly, and the pilot was decidedly unamused when he came to collect his aircraft later. But perhaps the biggest cowboy of all was the pilot of a Sea King 4, who was ferrying Royal Marines around the wilds of Devon on exercise. He enjoyed flying and prided himself on his skill in operational and tactical situations. He decided to depart from his published and approved track and went low flying in the treetops for kicks. His new route took him into unfamiliar territory.
All other frequencies will be standard as per the last 2 days, and the remainder of the Fly Pro is on the board. Are there any questions?
No.
Right, brief complete.
Let's go to it. I'll see you in there. The best way to avoid trouble is following the flight safety rules, but some situations are beyond human control. For instance, bad weather, bird strikes, disorientation, illusions, things that mainly affect aircrew. So be aware of all the possibilities and plan in advance the safest and most appropriate response. You'd be surprised how many people don't. A Sea King 5 had been tasked with transporting a number of underslung loads from an RFA to various land bases. The aircraft had made several round trips without stopping or refueling and had just one more load to shift. They set off to fetch it. However, there had been a few problems and hold-ups during the operation.
Dave, I think we're going to need some more fuel, actually.
Yeah, it is a bit low there. I think we're going to have to get some from Quebec 5 too, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. Shall we ask them?
But the RFA had its problems too.
We'll be requiring fuel in approximately 3 minutes when we recover.
That's negative. Fuel not available at this time. We have a pump under repair. There will be a 30-minute delay.
Over. 2 Juliet, roger. That's a 30-minute delay, Dave.
30 minutes. No, we can't wait that long. With the fuel we've got at a squeeze, I think we'll just get back.
Yeah, it'll be tight.
We'll give it a go.
The RFA was also having problems organising the last load and was still making ready when the aircraft returned.
Dave, it doesn't look as if they've got the load ready for us yet.
More vital moments were lost while the aircraft waited helplessly. Eventually, the load was ready for lifting. With the load safely hooked on, the Sea King set off on its final run to shore. But to add to their problems, a navigational error took them several miles off track. It was some minutes before the observer noticed and alerted the pilot.
Dave, I reckon we're about 4 miles north of track at the moment by the radar. Are you happy with that? 4 miles north of track?
Yeah, that looks about right, actually. About, yeah, probably about 2 or
sort of heading? Turn left 220.
So they altered course to get back onto track.
Christ, that fuel's low, Dave.
I'll increase speed a little bit, get there a bit faster.
Yeah, that's a good idea, mate. There's not a lot of fuel there.
No. Right. Shit, the load's gone unstable. I'm gonna get rid of it. With the fuel we've got and a squeeze, I think we'll just get back.
Yeah, it'll be tight.
We'll give it a go.
Sometimes in operational flying, you have to take a risk to achieve an objective. We've let taking chances become a way of life. Eventually, it'll become a way of death. What's the message? Well, there are several. When you're very familiar with a particular job, take greater care, not less. Be aware of the pressures that affect your performance, and don't let your safety standards slip as a result of them. Communicate with each other fully and clearly at all times. Don't take shortcuts. Don't be arrogant. And above all, give flight safety its proper priority. Finally, please believe that accidents don't just happen to other people. They happen to people like you. Like you.
One day, a Sea Harrier took off from a Royal Navy carrier with its nose-wheel ground lock still in place. An embarrassment at the best of times, but in action, a potentially fatal mistake.